what is a game supposed to be? First and foremost, even before being fair and balanced, it's supposed to be fun. Unfortunately, there's always one or few belligerent twatburgers who can't help themselves but to optimize the fun out of the game so they can still win without displaying a sliver of skill and stroke their damaged by micropenis syndrome egos with a slew of undeserved wins. In layman's terms, bunker builds exist. And the thing I have today to show you is the prime, undisputable example to why we're going to see warrior sustain nerfs next balance patch, if not earlier. And for once, I'm more than willing to welcome heavy-handed nerfs with open hands. Warrior has a bunker build, and a terrifically dull one at that. Of course, let me prefix rest of this video by saying, yes, I know that Kondizaka exists. And when played optimally, it is very reminiscent of the build I'm going to scrutinize in a minute. Even Sizek, however, at least makes an attempt at challenging the opponent. Corbanker, however, entirely abandons the idea of anything more than acknowledging the enemy's presence. This is the least interactive a warrior can be, and this is why I find it repulsive. Combination of soldier's comfort and martial cadence from tactics with cleansing ire from defense allows us to cleanse up to 6 conditions with every burst hit, and with discipline we can activate both effects on a 5 seconds interval. Cleansing ire, Signet of Rage, Versatile Rage, as well as Staff 225 all provide adrenaline, and Burst Mastery refunds our adrenaline spent, which all fuels into 3rd level bursts, being available almost off-timer for those cleansing effects. Combined healing from those options is strong as well, totaling to 6.5 or 7.5 thousand healing with Carrion and Sage amulets respectively from just Soldier's Comfort and Staff bursts over a span of 10 seconds. Before even counting in Adrenal Health, Shrug It Off and non-adrenal staff skills, allowing us to face tank majority of builds in the game with minimal requirement for mitigation and still keep mending in stock for emergency situations. All of this is underlined by our choice of utility skills, 3 sources of stability, one with damage mitigating passive and one with damage mitigating active. Moreover, we're using longbow. Condition damage was always balanced around allowing tankiest shits to still have kill pressure. And here, like with majority of examples, we're playing full bunker with no damaging traits and still being able to at least force somebody off of a node, if not kill them outright. Because we can make entire node into California Summer Simulator and stand inside of it for literal ages until multiple people show up to force us to relocate. The fact how comically easy it is for you to activate burst traits, because Combustive Shot practically does it for you so long you're mentally capable of aiming it at the ground, doesn't help either. And what's the funniest is that you can fill the rest of the build with pretty much anything you like, because just like your skill while playing this, it literally doesn't matter. The purpose of this thing is to be a brick, a roadblock, a doorstop, to sit on a node and deny any chance for fun from yourself and anyone who's going to have to deal with your bullshit. All you do is out-heal your enemy and throw combustive shots at the ground. Your enemy can't really interact with you either. You're condition proof, CC immune for most of the fight, reducing all power damage taken and healing like crazy. There are very few things that can actually kill you, and more often than not, the first thing that will is boredom. Against majority of enemies in a 1v1 you have nothing really substantial to do, as so long you are not falling asleep, you are in no danger of death. And similarly, your opponent doesn't really have a reason to interact with you, as dodging combustive shot is pointless, as it still remains on the ground and will activate all traits unless the enemy fully disengages, and your staff skills heal you no matter what, so the most that your enemy can deny you by dodging is adrenaline. and you get adrenaline for being hit due to cleansing air, so there is no point either. I cannot overstate just how brain-dead and how antithetical to the very concept of fun this thing is, and I can only hope the footage speaks for itself. Of course, Warrior is not the only thing that has a bunker build available, Condi Catalyst and Bunker Druid from the top of my mind, and when it comes to bunker v bunker fights, there's nothing to feel but frustration and disappointment for the following 5 to 15 minutes, yet still, there's a large chunk of player base more than eager to jump at every opportunity of winning without displaying a slightest monochrome of skill, so we all have to suffer for someone else's lack of self-esteem. And this specific bunker build is not only, as every bunker, dull, uninspired, skillless and unfun, but also easy to pick up and play because of Warrior's relatively low barrier of entry. Soon the same crowd that cried salty tears over Willbender no longer being able to face roll their way from silver to platinum without any input from the player will soon flock to the Bunker Warrior for the same ego boost of undeserved wins. And subsequently, Warrior will eat a fat nerf to its sustain, burying any hopes for a support build staying alive. That said, I'm already past the point of caring for support Warrior. Stuff is continuously nerfed pretty much since its inception, and Shouts already ate a nerf last patch, so the hopes for support Warrior staying playable are dwindling anyway. And as a cherry on top, this bunker piece of shit has roughly the same effect on every match it is in as the release day Spear Spellbreaker, aka it stands on the node, refuses to die and turns everything into a boring slog, just now with even less skill required from the player operating it. Nerf Hammer coming down hard is nigh inevitable at this point. And the underlying issue that allowed this piece of shit to exist is likely not to be addressed when that eventually happens. Whenever we make Warrior sustain options across multiple trait lines competitive with each other and strong enough to matter in combat, each on its own, we're bound to create a new bunker build, because those options can be stacked together. And I don't see a way out of this without at least partial rework to how Warrior's internal components operate, as this is a fault of multiple systems at once, which makes any nerfs to sustain itself pretty much pointless. You nerf the numbers, sustain becomes inadequate. You buff the numbers, bunker build reemerges from the depths once again. For clarity, let's recite the issues that piled up to create this monstrosity. First is Combustive Shot, and the fact that it doesn't have to hit the player to activate some of the on-burst traits, mainly Adrenal Health. But also it is an AoE that lasts up for 9 seconds, and can cover entire bloody side node. Furthermore, because it is a continuously present burst skill, and covers entire node as I said, its presence ensures your traits like Soldier's Comfort will trigger, as no enemy can contest the node against you without standing in your ticking persistent burst. Not to mention, with Martial Cadence and Discipline combined, you can make one Combustive Shot trigger your Soldier's Focus 3 times. Moreover, with cooldown of 6 seconds and duration of 9, you can drop next Combustive Shot before the previous time's out. All that guaranteed so long you manage to put the AoE on the ground, which is nowhere near difficult or complex enough to justify guaranteeing such effects. Even further, Cleansing Air cleanse works off of Combustive Shot as well, but even more importantly, it gives you adrenaline for being hit. Yes, the enemy is punished for fighting you, which in combination with Adrenaline Refund from Burst Mastery allows you to drop those 3rd level Combustive Shots almost off cooldown in majority of fights. Good job, ArenaNet. And that combined with staff being, well, staff, and it itself having 3rd level burst with significant healing output on it that all builds except this one are rather unlikely to utilize to its full potential due to adrenaline requirement, makes a huge difference in sustain this bunker thing gets for free in comparison to what other warrior builds have to fight tooth and nail for to acquire in the first place. and if you nerf stuff, Turbo Virgins will just play Sword or Axe with Warhorn instead for barrier application. And if you nerf tactics sufficiently enough to make this piece of shit disappear, so goes Support Warrior down with it. What you'd have to attack to hurt this build specifically, and not the rest of Warrior, is firstly the adrenaline generation for getting hit from Cleansing Ire, and secondly the duration of Combustive Shot's AoE, so it's less likely to guarantee trait activations. Unfortunately, it's not likely Arena will have enough finesse to do right by the Warrior, and carve this thing without collateral damage somewhere else. Like they addressed Spear Spellbreaker by making Spear borderline unplayable for every Warrior spec except Spellbreaker, and how they nerfed Willbender around the issue instead of just making Crushing Courage cooldown not reduced to 25 fucking seconds. In short, whatever favorite build of yours uses tactics or stuff, say goodbye to it in advance. As by next balance patch coming, it will probably lose its green numbers to pay for the sins of this bunker bullshit. Just for the arena to realize Warrior became unplayable, buff it next patch, and watch bunker build re-emerge, and haphazardly nerf numbers again, just to buff them back again, and repeat ad infinitum. A vicious cycle I'm nowhere near optimistic enough to see breaking until Arena realizes that one critical truth. They have to water the fucking plant. Jokes aside, Warrior will eventually need some sort of permanent solution to its design issues. Sure, we can just cover our eyes and ears and hope that Guild Wars 3 is coming to save us, but even if that headless dream ever comes true, we'll have to play something until it does. And for now, with Warrior's design left in its state, it's not only frustrating for all Warrior mains that see past Spellbreaker, but also directly affects the rest of the player base, who will have to deal with shit like this bunker garbage for next 3 or so years. Someone somewhere will eventually have to redo Warrior, and it's better in my opinion to rip off that band-aid and make peace with that idea now, because it's better than accepting that everything will be shit forever. And the longer we wait to rework Warrior, the more garbage will pile up and make the eventual task more difficult. Might as well burn the whole fucking thing down to ash and start over from the beginning. It is quite negative note to end on, but it's better to be ready for disappointment and positively surprised than to have copium and crash face first into reality. And with that out of the way, a big sign of gratitude towards all the generous supporters continuously considering my dubious quality content worth their money. You're all truly welcome. Crapface out.